So if we're going to be doing some painting in Photoshop, let's set up Photoshop to best allow us to do this painting. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change our workspace. And you can see here as our default, we have the Essentials workspace. While we'll be using some of these palettes, the color palette and the swatches palette, it's really not ideal. What we want to do is we want to click on Essentials and come down here to Painting. And you can see immediately our workspace has changed to best facilitate our painting. We can see we actually have a couple of very important panels here, our tool presets panel and our brushes panel. The brushes presets panel isn't as useful as it once was. And then of course we have some swatches up here. And we'll see that choosing color in Photoshop for painting can be a little bit challenging. There is one other panel I would like to have on this in this workspace. And so let's just open that up. I'm going to come to the window drop down menu and I'm going to select the color panel. Surprisingly, the color panel is not by default a part of this painting color set. So I have added a color panel here. Now, if I were to add more panels, which I could easily do just by coming down to the window drop down menu and selecting different panels here, I would be essentially changing that default painting workspace. And so what I would do is I would want to save this new updated workspace, the one with the color panel added, by coming to the window drop down menu, selecting workspace, and set new workspace. And when you open this panel, you're going to type something to that effect and just click save. But I'm not actually going to click save here. I already have a workspace set up that has my updated panels there. So I'm just going to click cancel. So now we have our workspace set up for painting. Let's set up a canvas for painting. So what I want to do now is come to the File drop-down menu and select New. And now this is something I like to do. I like to set a document size of 3000 pixels wide by 2000 pixels high with a resolution of 300 pixels per inch. Now for this color mode, unless I know that my illustration is only ever going to be seen online and never printed, I'm going to actually change my color space or color mode to CMYK color. Now, you probably recognize that CMYK color gamut is a bit smaller than the RGB and less saturated. And that's fine because if I were to create something in the RGB color space and then that image was to be converted to CMYK, I would be very disappointed with the degradation of that quality of that color. One thing that will prevent me from doing that is by keeping my color in the CMYK color space. And as far as background, we'll just leave it at white for the moment, and we'll keep everything here as square pixels. Now, before I say OK, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as a preset because this is something that I'm going to want to go back to all the time. So I'm going to click here for preset, and I don't know, maybe I'll just call this sketching, and I'll say OK. Now, I actually already have something here called sketching, so I won't say OK. I'm just going to click cancel. But you will see now then your presets drop down here that you now have something called sketching. And when you click on that, it'll have all the properties that we've just set here. I'm going to set that for sketching and I'm going to say OK. And we now have a canvas to work on. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to create some brushes, and we'll do that in our next video.